Okay, let's do this. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us, taking time out of your day to join us on the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. And this is the Seneca Park Zoo's broadcast of the Earth Day to You programs. We're very happy to be adapting our Earth Day programming for you today. And that is all possible through our sponsor today, which is Diamond Packaging. Diamond Packaging, just a quick blurb about them, was founded in 1911. Diamond Packaging is a global industry leader specializing in developing innovative and sustainable packaging solutions. For years, Diamond Packaging has been helping us present and be our sponsor for Earth Day, donating trees and native pollinator seeds that you've probably received in the past for Earth Day for many years. It is our pleasure to once again have them to continue their support for Earth Day this year by donating trees and sponsoring our events once again. So thank you, Diamond Packaging, for that. While we have trees are all reserved. We have used up all the trees. They're all reserved for our touchless pickup this Sunday. There are still some sustainability baskets from the zoo shop available. So get online to senecaparkzoo.org/earth and you can see all of those on there. And there's a lot more events coming up today, and the sales end at 10 o'clock tonight. So supplies are running low, so get yours while they're still there. So thank you, everyone. Ooh, all that pay the bill stuff's out of the way. So welcome. My name is Dave Will. I am a lead naturalist for citizen science here at the Seneca Park Zoo, coming to you from home. And I am joined for this birding program that we'll be doing today by Gretchen, my colleague, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gretchen Spencer. I am the School and Group Programs Coordinator for Seneca Park Zoo. And we are also joined today by June Summers. And June, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm June Summers with Genesee Valley Audubon Society. I am the president, and we work with the zoo on special projects such as this.
Thank you, June. Thank you, Gretchen. So we will be walking you guys through a bird feeder camera, and we'll be identifying bird species that we see coming to and leaving that camera. What we will, if a bird is fairly common that we have seen, you know, like a cardinal or a blue jay, we'll identify that right away, and then we'll tell you kind of some tips as to how we've identified that bird. But if we find something a little bit more rare, we will ask the chat to participate. So you will go into the chat function of Zoom and put in what you think that bird may be. I'll identify what bird we're looking at so that we're all kind of on the same page. And then you go into the chat and then you identify what bird you think it is. We'll call on a couple of the chat comments and then see how people are doing, and then we'll walk through what we think is correct or not. So thank you very much. So we're going to go to the bird feeder as of right now. Beautiful. And we know here in Rochester we did get some snow this morning, but it looks like in Ithaca where this bird feeder is, and this is the Sapsucker Woods Cornell Lab of Ornithology bird feeder. They have a live stream every day. It's a beautiful live stream to check out and to really practice your birding. So that's something that we're going to be doing today. We wanted to show you some of our partner organization resources that you can use for birding. So what we'll be doing is I will be identifying a couple birds that are coming to and leaving the feeder, and then we will talk about them a little bit. So first up, as a practice, we're going to look at this beautiful red iconic cardinal that we have here, northern cardinal. And June, can you give us some tips as to how we would identify this if we didn't already see them probably all over our backyards?
Well, for one thing, obviously, he's the only bird that we have in North America in our area that is pure red with a black face and yellow beak. He's a little smaller than a robin. And to give you a tip on how to identify birds, looking at birds, you look at, if sparrow size, it's about 5 inches. If it's robin size, it's about 10 inches. If it's crow size, it's about 18 inches. Using those three measures, that helps you to narrow your birds down. So he's a little smaller than a robin. And of course, the females look quite a bit different. But considering he's the only really red bird in this area, it's a real big hint.
Okay, so let's start off with these two birds that we see here on the bottom part of this feeder. They've put a bunch of different feeders around this one camera to emulate many different habitats. So the ground style feeder that we see in front of us, there's two birds of similar looking stature, and they are both gray birds. And we're going to be taking those as our first. Enter in your chat what you think those birds may be. And June, can you give us a couple of informational tips about how to identify those birds maybe?
Once again, these are birds that are about robin sized. The posture on these birds is something of a giveaway because they don't sit up erect like a robin. They sit more horizontally, and they're very gray brown birds. So
all right, June, we actually have a lot of people. We have a lot of people guessing the correct answer, so I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge them. So yes, for all the people that were guessing mourning dove, you are correct. So those are some lovely little mourning doves at the bottom there. They're one of Dave and I's favorite birds. We like talking about them quite a bit, don't we, Dave?
We do, yeah. And actually, Gretchen, can you tell us the difference between a pigeon you would normally see in Rochester and a mourning dove while we still had them on the video here?
Well, mourning doves are a little bit smaller, and pigeons can have a lot of different colorings, whereas, like June was mentioning, mourning doves are really that kind of slatish brown kind of color. They also sound a little bit different. Mourning doves, when they take off, make a pretty unique noise. June, do you want to describe that or give anybody some information about that?
Yep, when they take off, it's a wing, what's called a wing whir. So that's the best way. Their wings make a whir.
So we're going to jump to this bird that just landed on the right side of that bottom feeder. You see a blackbird with a very iconic orange barring on the wing. And we're going to take that one as another enter in the chat question. It was an all black bird with just a little bit of the color on its wing, and that was orange and a little bit of white. So if you want to enter into the chat what you think that may be, and Gretchen, why don't you tell us what the chat is saying?
All right, we have a lot of people with correct guesses. It is a red-winged blackbird, and actually I think I just heard it making its pretty unique call as well. So one thing, if you're just getting into birding and you're trying to learn how to identify birds by their calls, my advice is to always make it personal to yourself. So don't worry about what the bird book might say or what somebody else says. If it sounds a certain way to you, just remember it that way. So for myself, I always remember the red-winged blackbird as a rusty gate. Do you have any other advice for people in terms of learning to identify birds by song?
Go out into your backyard and learn the songs of the birds in your backyard and then expand on those. Definitely, like the Cardinal sings, let's see, he has a number of different songs, but learn the Cardinal and learn the Robin who goes cheer up truly, make them personal, and write these mnemonics down. Oh, here's the Cardinal. He reminded me, birdie, birdie, birdie.
Now Dave has a different way. He thinks of, oh, go ahead, Dave.
Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah, I actually do have a different way. I'm a big fan of Star Wars, and I think it sounds like a Star Wars blaster. So that's pretty funny when you hear it in your backyard.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we have a wonderful bird that just landed on the left side of our screen. Oh, he might be hiding behind that bark-like feeder. There's his head there. Smaller bird. You'll see him stationed on the side of a feeder, which will give us a little bit of a clue as to what he is. Go ahead and throw into the chat if you know what species this is. And let us know. And June, can you give us some iconic ways to tell what that might have been?
Yes. The fact that it was hanging on the side of a feeder is a real indication about what type of bird it was. And it was on two different suet feeders. It was black and white, and it had a small red spot on the back of its head. Does that give anybody any?
All right. Yeah, we actually had lots of people guessing woodpecker. That is definitely correct.
Yes.
And then we even had a few that identified the species, which is Downy Woodpecker.
Correct.
And that was correct. And Downy woodpeckers and hairy woodpeckers actually look really very similar. And one way to learn to tell them apart is by size. So I've been actually watching this bird feeder for a couple of weeks now, getting prepared for this event. And if we're lucky today, it might happen. We have had Downies and Harrys land at the same time, and then it's really obvious the size difference. June, do you have any other tips for being able to tell a Downy and a Harry apart?
It's very difficult, but the size is a big difference because the Downy is a 5-inch woodpecker, so it's on the sparrow size, and the Harry is a 10-inch woodpecker, which is on the Cardinal size. And past that, you have to go down to markings on the tail, or I like to look at the heads, because the hairy woodpecker has a beak that is as long as its head is long or wide, and the Downy woodpecker has a short beak compared to its head. So as I said, it's difficult, but that's the easiest way.
Yeah, I do the same thing with the beak trick. I kind of look at the beak, and if the beak looks like it's just as big as the head or even a little bit longer, then I know it's going to be a hairy. But if it looks like a little tiny shrunken beak, then I'm pretty sure it's a Downy. Dave, we got a couple of new birds here that are on the feeder. Do you want to identify them?
Yeah, we have had some action happening on this feeder. From time to time, we'll see a large group of birds landing on that bottom part of the feeder there on the tray. Mm-hmm. And you've seen a bird that is mostly dark in color, and those are all grackles that were landing on those. And I was just going to give you that one because we see them flock to the zoo right around March, and they'll sit right around our sea lion area in the big spruce trees around there and just yell at everybody for most of the spring.
So since we're talking about grackles, they have a really unique behavior that I think is pretty interesting. So they do something called anting. Anting is when a bird will fly down to the ground and they will spread out their wings and they will let ants just crawl all over them. And the reason for this is ants have something called formic acid, and the formic acid will actually kill off all the all the predators that parasites, sorry, that are on the bird. So that's kind of a unique thing that grackles will do. And actually, I think we've got some grackles there.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a grackle.
And grackle, bottom left corner.
Yeah, and another thing you can notice with that grackle is it is an adult grackle, and I can tell that by its eye. So juvenile grackles have brown eyes, whereas adult grackles have that really brightly colored eye.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Alrighty, and we're just going to watch this and you'll notice with these feeders, we get a lot of different birds landing on these feeders, especially different times of day because of the dynamic habitat you'll see behind there. So you see a lot of the wooded area, but also a great water area, so a nice wetland. So we're tracking all different types of birds. We see a bird landing on the back feeder and then ran away and then hopped to this middle feeder here. Oh, nope, that is a red-winged black. There he is, bottom of the tray. We're going to be identifying this bird now. This guy is all speckled. He can be seen in many different ways depending on when you see him through the year. It's tough to just see them alone like we are seeing now. Usually they're in a large group. So June, can you give us any information about this guy?
He's a little smaller than a robin. He is not native to North America. He has a yellow beak. Those are my hints for identifying it.
Yep.
All right, we've got lots of guesses, and they are all correct. It is a European starling. You are correct. And like June was mentioning, they are not native to North America. And my favorite fact about them that I learned from my ornithology professor as an undergrad was that they were actually brought to the United States in 1890 by Shakespeare enthusiasts. They thought it would be a neat thing to have all the birds that were mentioned in Shakespeare's work kind of in Central Park while they were doing some Shakespeare in the Park, and they had no idea that it was going to take over the way it did. Do you have any more information about starlings that you'd like to share?
No, other than they shouldn't really be here, and they do cause some problems for some of our native birds. So when you put your bird houses out, make sure you have small enough holes for our native birds, which actually use them, which are chickadees and wrens. That was it, you know. That's my big hint.
I think we had, I think the people that are running the bird feeder cam actually like moved us back a little bit. So now we're seeing a different view. This is new to me. I've never seen it this way before. But you can kind of see that there are a lot of different types of bird feeders that they have. And June, do you maybe want to talk a little bit about why people should put out different types of feeders? And there was a question a while ago in the chat also about maybe what types of bird food these feeders have. Could you go over that a little bit?
Yes, let's talk about that. For the most part, we put out black oil sunflower seed. I think that they might not be putting out black oil sunflower seed, or a lot of it. They have it on this bird feeder to your left in the back. But that seems, the birds can open that easily and get the most nutrition out of it. And most of our birds in New York eat that the most, particularly the grackles, the cardinals, and some of the other birds, the sparrows, and not sparrows, but the finches. On the bird feeder to your right, with the green perches, that seems to be safflower seeds. Some birds like that, and some finches like it, and others don't. But in the ground feeder or platform feeder, we seem to have sunflower hearts or sunflower seeds that have been hulled, millet, and peanut hearts. And that's our blue jay that's calling.
Yes, getting yelled at by our blue jay.
Yes.
So
and blue jays are interesting. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say
that. Oh, go ahead, June.
Offering that different selection of food draws in a different selection of birds. But let's talk about our blue jay. So I'll turn it over.
All right. So one thing that I've learned about blue jays that I think is kind of interesting, a lot of people know blue jays have that really iconic black kind of necklace-looking marking on their front, and scientists believe that blue jays can tell each other apart just by that black stripe, which I thought was pretty cool. June had mentioned about all the different, oh, I'm hearing a nice chickadee. Do you hear that one, June?
No, but I got the grackle.
Yeah, the grackle talked over our poor little chickadee there, but
yeah.
I was also going to mention back to the bird feeders that besides having different types of foods, they're also in different structures, and that is actually to go with the adaptations that birds have for how they forage. So you've got that nice platform feeder on the bottom where we're seeing all those grackles right now. And that's because they're if they were just, you know, out in nature getting their food, they would actually be a ground feeder. They're going down to the ground to get their food. And then you've got things like the tube feeders on the right there. Gosh, those grackles are noisy. Those are going to be attracting birds that are more of like a perching or foliage gleaning type of bird. And then, of course, we've got those suet feeders in the middle, and they're especially adapted for things like woodpeckers. And my favorite thing about woodpeckers is they have a similar foot structure to the parrots that we have at the zoo. So if you've ever been to one of our programs and seen some of our parrots, you might know already that they have an X-shaped foot, which is called zygodactyl feet. Zygodactyl feet help parrots hold on to food and crack them open, and they also help woodpeckers be able to cling onto the bark. June, is there any things you'd like to say about woodpeckers or their feet?
You're right about their feet, and it helps them to go up and down trees. Their tails also help them to balance, which is so important when they're pulling their heads back and going forward to hit the tree. So I think that's it as far as I'm going to go. But it's really important to have the different foods. And if you don't have a large body of water in your backyard, offer water and keep that water bath clean.
Yeah, switching up habitats is very great for calling in some birds. The zoo does a great way of doing that, just having different habitats for our animals. I've been birding in the zoo just from working there for a pretty long while now, and each small section of the zoo has different natural birds living around it. They've figured out the little mini micro habitats of just that one small area, so always keep an eye to the sky, especially when you come visit us at the Seneca Park Zoo. So I think we've been seeing pretty much the same birds. If anybody would like to add a question into the chat since you have a bird expert here in front of you, you're more than welcome to throw a question in the chat while we kind of wrap this up just a little bit here.
Dave, since we've got some red-winged blackbirds here,
Sure.
one of the things that I like about them is that they're pretty much the first birds that you see to know that spring is coming. June was mentioning when we were getting ready that they usually arrive in March. So that's kind of a nice thing. If you start seeing red-winged blackbirds, that means that spring is on its way. Something else that I came across while prepping for this program is that the red wing bars on their shoulders there, they actually use to kind of show if they're feeling more aggressive or if they're trying to not show them off as much. So they might puff them out if they're trying to be really impressive to another male red-winged blackbird, or they might hide it if they're trying to be a little bit more subdued and not draw attention to themselves. We've got a few questions here, and somebody was asking, are there any flickers at Seneca Park Zoo? Dave, have you seen flickers?
Yes, actually, funny story. They are in our parking lot most of the time. You'll see them around the trees on the outside of our parking lot, especially in the entranceways from our back parking lot towards the front of the zoo. So yeah, you'll see them amongst the trees in the front of our zoo before you even get into the facility.
We've got some other questions. Somebody was asking, do we ever see robins come to the feeder? And one time when we were actually practicing for this event, we saw one robin, but we haven't really seen that many robins come to the feeder. Jim, would you like to explain why we don't typically see robins at bird feeders?
Robins are insect and worm eaters, so there's not much that you can offer them except for mealworms at feeders. And I have not done enough work on how to offer mealworms at feeders to attract robins. I saw a question.
Go ahead, Jim.
I saw a question on what's the best app to learn to identify birds. And that answer, I think, if you're a novice, is called Merlin, and it is from the Cornell Ornithology Lab. So,
one of my go-to resources, if I'm just walking around, I see a bird, it'll ask you a series of questions as to where you see the bird and then how big it is and time of year and that kind of thing. And then you'll be able to get a list of what it might be, and then you can listen to all the sounds there. Also online, the Macaulay Library through Cornell also has a wonderful database, but that's more online.
There's another great question in our chat that says, what can we do to help birds on Earth Day? June, is there something that people at home could be doing? I know we're all staying at home right now. Is there something they could do that would be beneficial to our songbirds?
Yes, you can plant native plants in your backyard, and you can visit the Genesee Valley Audubon Society website to find out more about what native plants you can plant. And by doing that, you'll offer more native berries and more native insects for them to eat. So give that a try.
So we're gonna ID one last bird that is on our tray feeder now, but started on that feeder towards the left. I've already seen some people throwing into the chat. It is an iconic species, and actually one of my favorite birds that we have here in the area. I almost said it out loud, and that's what I was going to. So Gretchen, can you run us through the chat and see what we've got?
Yeah, we've got lots of people that knew it right away. It is a woodpecker we see quite a bit. It is a red-bellied woodpecker. So one program that I run at the zoo is a merit badge workshop for scouts, and it's about bird study. And often scouts, when they're just learning to bird, they confuse it a little bit and they think it's a red-headed woodpecker because it does have a lot of red up on its head. There is a species of red-headed woodpecker, but their whole face is red, like the whole head, all the way around. Whereas if you noticed the red-bellied that we got on the bird feeder cam just now, it's really more like the top of the head and then going back. And I even saw that somebody identified it as a male, which was also correct, because the males have the red that goes on from the top of their head all the way down to the nape of their neck. If it was a female, it really would just be a little bit of red just on that nape, a little bit. So, good job, everybody.
Good job, everyone. I think we're going to wrap up. I am seeing female cardinal in the chat. That is correct. That was a female cardinal that landed on that last feeder there. So we are going to thank you guys very much for bearing with us through our first ever virtual event that we're doing, which is exciting. I'd like to thank you for watching. And a reminder, we have a full line of programming available today via senecaparkzoo.org/earth, along with a limited supply of Zoo Shop sustainability baskets, which are available for touchless pickup this Sunday. If you missed this program, we will be making recordings and we'll be pushing them out on our webpage tomorrow. Next thing coming up at 11 o'clock, very excited, I'll be tuning in myself, Animal Enrichment Experience will be happening at 11 o'clock. And then at 12 o'clock, we're doing a macroinvertebrate sorting. Again, 1 o'clock, another animal experience. 2 o'clock, you can be a local conservationist. And then at 3 o'clock, a beautiful talk about Earth Day today. So very excited. Thank you guys very much for coming with us and staying with us for this experience. We're just testing this out and it seemed to work okay. And you guys are way better at IDing birds than I was when I first started. So good job, guys. So thank you very much on behalf of the Seneca Park Zoo and all of our panelists. And have a great Earth Day, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.